Yes, sir. All right. Let's just go ahead on and go with it now. Resiliency of vision is the name of the of this particular um, gathering. I just have a problem with saying a show. I just don't, I'm not trying to put on no show. I believe it was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that black people are into show, whereas white people is in the business. So resiliency of vision, and we're talking about vision as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that vision um, stems from the source of one's thinking. It's like what you want for your brother, you should want for yourself. And I'm not trying to promote any religious dogma or what have you, but if something that appeals to my nature and makes sense, I most definitely is going to utilize it and share it with others, and those I'm proud to do so in that regards. We have brother Marcus Sankofa Nix on the line. Greet the people, Marcus, brother.
Peace and power, family, all those tuning in, listening, and peace and power to you, brother Kevin. Glad to be able to join the gathering, and looking forward to having a empowering, rich discussion and dialogue. Glad to be here. I'm humbled to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, I was just thinking in that regards about the topic of the of discussion is family, the qualifications, the influence, and the membership. I also realized that planet Earth is a sociological structure, and there is need for family. And when you hear the need for family, need for family is the core of our social life or our social existence. That is something that I didn't come up with. It is something that I heard from brother Wallace, Eman Wallace, Dean Muhammad, and the need for family, the core of our social life. Now, when you think of family, what do you think about, brother Sankofa?
Um, when I think about family, I think about a support system. I think about um, you know I think about pretty much uh, I would say family being an entity where one can um, kind of get an identity. Um, family being one in which values can be instilled. Um, a sense of origin. Um, um, you know, uh, depending on how you want to look at it. And I think that there's different types of families, but I think a family being there's many scholars that say family is the first institution, the primary institution, and I think that family is extremely important, and it can definitely help one understand his or herself. Because family, uh, family is family. I think it's very, very, very important. I think that much of the way a person's outlook is about him or herself, and the way that they view life, their reality, their perspectives, their thoughts, their mindset, a lot of things have a lot to do with I would say, the family. Um,
Okay. Now, I heard a lot of, you said many important for me amplifying words or words that resonate and stick out. And, you know, there is a definition for family, but I say a definition is something that someone gave as a group consisting, and the key word is consist is the ing in consisting, which means something that is always evolving or always growing. In doing so, it is consistent in doing that. And if it's consistent in doing that, either it is growing, if they're hitting in the same directions, they're growing together and becoming more closer to each other, or if they're not hitting in the same directions, they're growing apart from each other. And if that is something that is if family is the first institution, then you're talking about institution of learning. And if that which we value is the institution of family, but then if the family start to lose value, it's because it does not become relevant. And that which not becomes relevant, if it's the institutional learning, is probably what the example that is being taught, they don't value it and it's not becoming relevant anymore. So therefore we grow apart from each other. Now, in saying that, we're talking about family. The core of family is the need, the need for social life. You know what I'm saying? Social life. So and then you can chime in on this one. I was looking at a show, and I can't recall, it was an Asian country. I just used the word Asian. I can't recall where it was, maybe North Korea, South Korea, or maybe Japan. Is that they were teaching their kids, or their children, they were teaching the children at a young age the importance of self-expression. I thought that was real excellent. You know what I'm saying? So that means that they can take that with them wherever they go, because everybody have need for self-expression. The clothes that we wear, the cars that we wear, the people who we interact with, because it is a benefit to the family, to the fabric of the family, or the extended family, I should say, as a whole. But let's get back to this growing together as opposed to growing apart. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that there's in this culture in which we live in, United States of America, U.S. I'll be specific and say that there's many different things that tug away at the family, and that make it difficult for the family to stay connected, for the family to stay united. And when I say family, for the sake of those listening in, and for the sake of our conversation, I'm speaking of biological family, I'm speaking of extended family, community family, it can be organizational family, I'm speaking of all of the above. And there's different things working, churning to keep the family from staying connected and staying close. And so in order for the family to stay together, it requires some work. That's the society which we live in. And so what are some of those things that make it difficult? Well, one of the things about family is, when you think about family, think about relationships. And when it comes to relationships, anytime you have a relationship with another person, it's almost like you're taking a risk, because emotions, feelings are attached to this relationship. And, somebody might do something, somebody might wrong you or make a mistake or do something. And so what I would say is a part of healthy relationships are the ability to forgive. or to be able to, as you and I, Brother Kevin, have spoke about before in the past, reconciling our differences, being able to come back together, or families being divided up over money, and financial matters. There's a lot, family members, perhaps, I would say, those who maybe walked out on somebody, or somebody who, exited or was not accessible, who has left or who's gone, and somebody feeling abandoned, and now that abandonment has been carried generation to generation, and it's been duplicated or repeated. There's, the culture of crime we live in is very abusive on many levels. So, there's many different things that make it difficult for the family to stay together, that make it difficult for the family to remain intact. I would say, this is not just the black family. This is, many families, period, in this culture we live in. But I will say, as far as the black family goes, most definitely, even when you look at history, and you look at, nations being conquered, you look at what history has shown and presented, the family unit is always one of the first things to be attacked, and from that, it leaves the rest of the society vulnerable. So,
Okay, now you said the last thing you said, that which leaves the family vulnerable, right?
yes, sir.
Anytime, if we, one thing I realize about family, that it is, I realize that I think that is a natural, not only a natural phenomenon, but the natural development of the natural growth and development of the family from, mother to father unto child, and in doing so, it takes on a level of a sense of maturity, appreciation, and reverence and respect for their growth and development. Because if they become closer together, and then that admiration, that reverence and respect, and my point that I'm trying to make, as opposed to the fact that they generally begin to grow, gradually grow apart from each other, because they no longer share the same interests or in the same things. For example, you know what I'm saying? Even when you could interact with, a cousin or a uncle, his interest is not the same of yours. So then gradually or naturally, is a gradual, someone called the law of gradual process. Then naturally or gradually, you start to grow further apart from each other, and it is due to the fact, once again, that you possibly don't share the same interests. But that's why I say is that if anything, any relationship that should be formed is a relationship of reverence, which means honor and respect. Is due to to the family and to the members of the family. Yet at the same time, you can be a uncle in title, but don't be an uncle in practice. You can be a father in title and don't be a father in practice. So, therefore, the son or the daughter starts to feel abandoned. Then, naturally, he or she, as a young person, gradually grow apart from the father, who has the title of the father, but yet the father does not spend, or mother, whatever you want to, it don't make no, the parent does not spend the quality time in the development, in the growth, in the process, in the maturing of that child. So therefore, that child starts to feel abandonment, and then therefore something else comes in, either with bad intentions or with good intentions, to help fill that void that has been missing. So, how would you address the fact that instead of being a father in title but not in practice, and yet there is a void that is missing, and gradually the child and the parent grow further apart from one another? How are you? How if you could answer that, or is it a way to answer that, or or am I making or does this make sense to you?
It is making sense, and as you speak, Brother Kevin, I think about Dr. Joy DeGroot and in the work she has post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she speaks about bacon esteem, the value that one has based on a lot of times their family relationships, the value or the worth, the self-worth that a person has. And what one of the things that you see is when a person hasn't got that love, hasn't got that love, the affection, that healthy relationship, perhaps where they should have got it, then they'll look other places to be able to overcompensate for the void. I know the phrase that's been said countless times, looking for love in all the wrong places. I'm a relatively new father. I'm a relatively new father. I've been a father figure of many for quite some time, but biological father is what I speak of. And I have a girl, a young princess, a queen in the making, and I see it play out how that male figure, that father figure, might not be in the light of that young lady, and she might be more prone to be promiscuous and more prone to look for validation and acceptance and approval from someone else. What I thought was profound in Dr. DeGroo's work is that she makes the point in the book that people, even if it's something that's to their detriment, something that's even something that even is maybe harmful for them, they still will put themselves in positions to still perhaps get that void filled, even when they might not have got that affection or that love or acceptance from where they were supposed to get it. They'll still try to put themselves in position to get, even if it's to their detriment. And one of the things that one of the ways that you see that play out is with gangs. A good amount of young people might take to gangs, and gangs have a reputation of being negative, and being bad, violent, and all those things. But I think one of the main factors with those who take part in that is that, the family unit, might be dysfunctional, or it might be a breakdown in their family, or it might not be as supportive or family oriented as it should be. So they're looking for they're looking for a replacement. They're looking for something to give them what they didn't have in the beginning. And so, not saying that that is the only reason, but it definitely, I think, is a factor to consider. So, I think that when it comes to self-worth and, how one views his or herself, family is so critical. And, you see it play out in many different ways on many different levels. Individuals trying to get that acceptance, trying to get that approval, because that family unit didn't provide perhaps what it should have. I believe that family, at the end of the day, should meet family should meet your needs. It should meet your needs on a physiological level, emotional level, psychological level. And so when those needs aren't met, you try to get those needs met in other places.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm thinking about the question of involvement. You have to be involved as a parent. You want to be involved in the child's, life, whatever challenges that the family is going through, or that the children is going through, or the child is going through, or whatever. When it comes, you have to be, it's about being involved, and that's contingent upon one's level of participation. And it's like anything else. You're gonna be a participant, or you're gonna be a spectator, And yeah, that's most important, because when you talk about the level of participation, you're talking about what one's contribution. One's contribution comes into play, and on what, as a parent and as a family unit, what contribution, what did you contribute in bringing and keeping the family together, and what could be the contributing factors that in the role that parents could possibly maybe overlook, that that could bring further bring the that the child will further develop this exchange relationship with their mother and in their father. It could be the fact that you may go to you may have to work, and someone else may not have may not have the same may not have the same values and views, but what have you, that you may have, and therefore somehow or another they start to these are little intricacies, I should say. Then they start to creep in, and then you try to figure out, man, where did, and your daughter or your son or what have you may come home and say, well, where you learn that from? You know what I'm saying? And that's why you always want to do your best to raise your child in a healthy environment, and understand the importance of creating that foundation of what's important to and for the family unit, and that could play under the it could be considered as some will call it personal ethics. And then I'm gonna say one more thing, because we talk about now moving to the qualification part now, is that as it pertains to resiliency of vision, family qualifications, membership, or influence. Remember, but boy, the qualifications, we're talking about. When you go to the job, you apply for the job. What is the qualification that you have to be a parent? You know what I'm saying? what accomplishments that you have if you never have been a parent before. Well, how have you learned that you can, what determines that that you can be a good parent? How do you go about that? What makes you eligible or suitable to be a parent? Can you answer that one?
Well, what makes one eligible to be a parent? Well, I would say to answer that question first, brother Kevin, I'll give a personal account. Me becoming being in a position to be a father, even a husband. That is not nothing that I just assumed. It's not a role that I just took on and said, okay, I'm a father. A certain amount of years that I was living didn't necessarily say that. We live in a time where you get to be 21, you have certain types of things you can engage in that you couldn't if you get to be 18. I went through a rites of passage, from the Temple of New African Thought. There were elders and those who were fathers and who were parents who showed me what being a father is. So I had that to help. You mentioned the word vision. Brother Kevin, they gave me I was able to visualize what that looked like by seeing the example and the model that they set. And I think that's very, very important, because, you get training for a job, you get training for athletics and sports, you get training for certain things, but for a role and a responsibility as grand as parenting, why would we not get training for that? And so, I think that was very critical in my development. Furthermore, I think when it comes to being a parent, and you mentioned the point, Brother Kevin, that you can have the title but not have the actions, that would make you a parent. I think one who is committed to being the best they can be continuously is very important when it comes to being a parent. And the reason why I say that is because, I think that you can be a good parent and that child might not biologically be yours, but if you are committed to that child in a positive way, and you're committed and you are trying to do the best you can to be right by the child, I think that is very big. Commitment is a value that's important. I know Minister Star have a message, and he says commitment is an African virtue. So commitment, the abandonment that we spoke about earlier, and the trust and all of that. A lot of that stems from commitment. And I think that what I would say that everybody might not find themselves in this position, and every situation is different. But I would suggest that having a healthy relationship with the mother and father first, I think is going to carry over better good for the child. I think that stronger the relationship between the mother and father, I think that the better off the child will be, and even there's even research that supports that. And you look at the divorce rates, how many relationships are fractured, and things like that nowadays. It makes you see how some children have the challenges, things that they have. And for myself, what I try to give is
Yes. You still there? Still? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry about that. You were saying what now?
Yeah. And so what you were saying about what I can give, one of the things that I think I can give is accessibility. And when I say accessibility, many of the young people that I work with on a daily basis, one of the things that gives us the deepest amount of pain and hurt is the fact that one of their parents, one of their biological parents, that is not accessible. Whether it's them being locked up, whether it's divorced and they only see that parent every so often or on weekends. There's been some cases where the parent has passed away. But being accessible, and I know that I was fortunate to have my father who was accessible. I mean, I could see him daily. My mother was accessible. I could see her daily. I could talk to them. I could touch them. I could feel them. I could reach out to them. They were always there. And so I think that that's important. And I give you kind of like an analogy, Brother Kevin, to prove my point, or prove it, but to kind of explain my point. Whenever I get home every day, my daughter Zuri is usually in the arms of my mother because my mother looks after her, while I go out and while I'm at work and while my wife is at work. And whenever I get back, Brother Kevin, I can see on her face, even though she's 5 months old, she smiles, she gets joyful, she almost wants to jump out of my mother's arms and come to me. That's how full of excitement and joy and happiness that she gets. And when I leave, as soon as I walk in the door and I go and I go to change and whatnot, before coming back out to take her from my mother says, "Don't worry, he'll be back," because she's like, "Where is he going?" She's looking at me. She's following my every move. And so once I go change, then I come back and return to her. But the thing that I think is profound, Brother Kevin, is for a lot of young people, Daddy never came back. For a lot of young people, Mom might not have came back, or there's distance between them and their parent. And so I'm glad that I'm in the position, I was even thinking about it today, where, I'm accessible, I'm available, and my intention is to continue to be accessible and to continue to be available. And I see a lot of times, especially with young people, these rappers or these entertainers or these celebrities almost become idolized even more because, this is what they're aspiring to, perhaps because, the parent might not be accessible. Now, even with the parent involved, it's not to say that, these people might still not be idolized. But I think there is something to that as well. My first hero and shero was in my home, and I think it definitely makes a difference, Brother Kevin.
Yes. Yes, resiliency of vision. Brother Marcus Sankofa, Nick's on the line, talking about family, the qualifications, the member or membership, and the influence. Earlier, we was recording, outside, and you probably heard, you hear the outside of the sounds on the outside. I was moving inside, so you probably heard some moving too. So I try to make this, just reduce the sound. Member, a family member. What concludes to be a family member? I mean, what makes you a member? I know that when you go to any organization, you become a member, and there is a when you're a member, as a membership, there's a membership fee. I mean, it's something that you have to pay. So is there a price to be paid to be a family?
Yeah, price to be paid. Well, like I said before, I think when you um, are in a family with other people and you have relationships with people within the family, I think it's always a risk because in relationships, they say it's give and take, and both parties, you're investing your feelings, you're giving yourself to that other person, trusting that they will do right by you, they will respect you, they will, and so that is risky in and of itself. And some people, depending on their relationships that they've had in the past, are not in a position to take such a risk. That's why some might have had unfortunate situations with a person. They might not be as trusting of other people. So, but I think that the benefits of having family far outweigh what people might say would be non-benefits. A family to support you, and a family that you can rely on, and a family that can help buffer some pain, or some challenging situations that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can extract energy from, and that could be your that could be your. I remember you oftentimes before saying to me, brother Kevin, your reserve. You can tap into that reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So the family is like a well that never runs dry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what family should be.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's at different levels in terms of where they're at.
Yes.
With how their family goes about existing or functioning. And I would say that there's no family that is without challenges. But at the same time, I think family is very, very, very important. It is very, very important, and I think a lot of the things that we see, mindsets, people's efficacy, people's resiliency, which is resiliency, their perseverance, their tenacity, their emotional stability. I think a lot. And things that I haven't even mentioned. There's so much that goes into the family, how the family can influence a person. So much.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the final one, is the influence. Influence, the capacity or tolerance of an effect on one's character. The tolerance have on the effect on the character development or the behavior of each other as a family unit. The tolerance, how much, who better knows the mood swing of your child than you. So, and that what you do, you have an effect on, like when you say that your daughter want to know where you're going, and then your mother reinforces that he'll be back, and that's you really, it plays a part on the development, on her development of her possibly her character development. You know what I'm saying? Or the way that you behave have an effect on the way she will behave. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't allow outside influences to come in, and who has no tolerance and do not know the values and the views of your family, but try to have influence on the child, and then therefore they bring those behavior, those values, and their views to your family. Then therefore, instead of becoming closer together, you become further apart. So there are certain things that within your family that you have established and built in. for that family protection. And I think Dr. Francis Cress Wilson said, if people don't respect themselves, they won't protect themselves. So it's about protecting, you know, the well-being of your child, and then of your family as a whole. We're getting. I know you. If you want to respond to that, because we're getting close to the to the end of the time. Anything you want to share, or you want to speak to that before we close on out?
Sure. Well, and once again, Brother Kevin, I appreciate you, and I'm humbled to talk to you. I'm humbled to talk over the airways for those tuning in, listening.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about the story of Malcolm X, or at the time Malcolm Little. Seeing his with the influence that his father had on his family, and from a protection standpoint, being that strong figure that was at one point in time accessible and available to him. His father was a community organizer and a leader. Was involved with Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, and he ended up getting killed. Many say it was from the efforts of white supremacy, and you look at the aftermath of what transpired and how it impacted the family. Malcolm's mother ended up going to a mental asylum, and then after that, Malcolm and his siblings went to foster homes, and then later on, Malcolm would kind of spiral downhill, and get caught up into street life, hustling, and doing things that weren't necessarily in his best interest until he ended up, getting locked up. And then he found, that mentor, or some would say Jegna, Elijah Muhammad, who would then be another accessible father figure to him. But you see how critical that male piece was to the family, and how things impacted the family once that father piece, that male piece, was removed. So, it's definitely important and critical, and of course, mothers are important and critical too. But the influence, and all of that. I think that story, it was just something that came to my mind, and I think about Brother Kevin myself. I think when one reflects, sometimes you lose sight even and forget just how much we are influenced by our family. I mean, my father, he's a Baptist minister, a Baptist preacher. His father is a Baptist preacher, a Baptist minister. From what I've been told, my great grandfather, my father's father, my father's father, my father's father's father was a Baptist minister and preacher, and so here I am. As one, I'm not a Baptist preacher, but I'm one who has been told, that I've been fortunate to be given the skill set to be able to speak, and to lead on certain levels, and to organize, to play my role, to be able to help raise people up. And so I know that much of that is from what I observed from my own father, how he dresses, and his charisma, and so I think it's that influence piece is real heavy, real heavy. So people say I laugh like my father, and I have mannerisms like my father, and they say the older I get, the more I resemble my father. So
Yes.
I'm just thinking about that, Brother Kevin.
Sounds good. Resiliency of vision, as Elijah Muhammad says. Vision stems from the source of your thinking, and as Farrakhan, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan would say, that the mechanism that is missing is manhood. You know, so manhood does most definitely plays a part. There's I think it's Elijah Muhammad's son said, "Man is mine," and mine is man, one of the two, and then when he said man is mine is man, he wasn't it doesn't necessarily mean it's applied to a gender, but we're talking about just having a mind to do what is necessary for your inner growth and your outward development, and that which builds character, and character is the outgrowth of your humanity. So we thank you, brother Marcus Sankofa Nix, and as always, always say, give to the gift of social literacy, resiliency of vision. This family qualification, membership, and influence. Thank you for the discussion and the exchange, I should say, Brother Marcus Sankofa Nix. Until next time, talk to you.
All right. Well, once again, I appreciate it, Brother Kevin, and I'm delighted to be able to have the conversation with you. I appreciate what you do, and you having a platform to allow individuals to be able to express themselves. I definitely appreciate it, and I've enjoyed the program.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Hold tight for a minute.